Welcome to the Community ROI podcast. Here, senior community experts, founders, and C-level managers tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth about how community impacts business growth. By listening to these conversations, you'll get actionable steps on how to connect community goals with business goals to skyrocket business growth while still bringing extreme value to community members. My name is Yurii. I help people and brands shine through communities and personal connections, and my guest is Zach Hawtof, an occasional CEO at Tightknit, a community platform for businesses that run their communities on Slack, who clearly proves right all those community builders who keep saying that Slack is a great place for a community. So, welcome, Zach.
Well, thank you for having me, Yuri. I'm excited to be here.
It's been some time since we had our last conversation, but I feel like, in the community world, it's always like async world, and it's a
Yep.
bit of serendipity. We connect here and there. We start conversation, we stop conversations, and we continue from the moment we stopped. So happy to learn from your experience because you are not just community expert, but you're also building a tool to help community experts. So it will be like double-sided experience, and I can't wait to tap into. So let's start with the easiest one. What's your definition of a community for business?
Yeah, I think that's actually the hardest one, I'd say, because everyone has a different definition. I generally describe a community for business. It has to be one that's focused on the business goals, right? Like if you're building a community for business, it has to be focused on the business goals. So backing up from there, you think, okay, what are our business goals? Are we driving customer relationships, partner relationships, donor relationships? Finding the right member for your community and saying, how do we deliver great experiences for our end consumer? And then building a space where we can build those end-to-end relationships between them. So that's what I would describe, quickly as a community for business.
Yeah, it's very quickly because I feel like to just totally answer this question, it can be like, I don't know, 10 podcast episodes, maybe hour long, maybe even more. So it's always the question. So from where you are, you work with many different community builders, with many different companies. Where do you see community creating the most real business value? Is it like branding or retention or product or something else? Like what is your experience?
Well, I would say in the last like 5 years, it's been fun to watch that it's definitely become much more, like you just said, brand marketing, focused on the end deliverable of like how do we take our business and make sure that people feel confident when they're working with us. I like to say I'm in the confidence building industry all the time, to bring people together and say, all right, let's go solve a problem together and have them learn from each other. It's exciting to see that it's kind of, left the customer support space for the most part and moved much more into how do we think about creating these programs so that customers are going to learn as much as possible.
Sounds like it's becoming a horizontal layer within corporations, within companies.
Totally. Yeah. I think you'll hear it a lot, but community is a multiplier, right? I think it's part of a business where it really never truly fits into just one box. But I tell every community manager, your job is to align with every single person in the customer success team, the sales team, the marketing team, and say, hey, we have an avid community that can help you solve your goals. So help me solve your goals with you, right? And so that's that multiplication element is you can take other goals in a business and amplify them through the community.
So you are building this tool that is around Slack. So I'm curious, why Slack?
Yeah, a lot of people when we first started this company, they were like, "Oh, you must have loved Slack," and we're like, "No, we just know that Slack is where people meet throughout the day. That if you're doing business and we want to be what we call someone's 9 to 5 community, not their 5 to 9 community. We don't want to be the email thread at the end of the day where they post a comment and they come back the next day. That's not like that engaging experience. So we said, how do we meet people where they are? How do we build a platform that helps people solve problems throughout the day, throughout work? Actually helps you become part of a business's community. And Slack was the space for it. I mean, we looked, of course, we looked at Slack, we looked at Teams, we looked at Discord. Uh, I can tell you how each of the other two were disqualified, but Slack really stood out because it was one already the most popular one. At the time, it was a space that many of us enjoy to be in, and it wasn't, how do I put this? It was already being used as a community platform without ever stating it was a community platform. It was the most popular one of the top 10. So we said, all right, what is this? What does it look like if you untie the giant's hands, right? What if you actually give it the community juice that it needs to make it into a viable solution?
I even remember some time ago, folks from Salesforce and Slack. I don't just know, was it officially or unofficially? They like told that Slack is not community platform. We are not going to make it a community platform. I totally heard it. I hope I'm not getting wrong, but I clearly it was somewhere in the space. And then I feel like it is still a community platform. People are still gathering there. And to your point, from 9 to 5. So, you eliminated Teams, Discord. Why not LinkedIn?
Oh, LinkedIn eliminated themselves. Let's be clear.
Okay.
LinkedIn groups never quite turned into what I think people thought it could be. Um, I don't think I've interacted in a LinkedIn group in several years now. And I think yeah, I think it was almost a non-starter because there was no functionality I think that we could build to make it so people would end up back in a LinkedIn group.
It's like a community graveyard. People are coming there once a year and then getting sad and letting it out. So, to coming back to Slack, what are the pros and cons of Slack as a community platform?
I mean, I think that some of the biggest pros is it's already in a lot of people's pockets. Like it's in your pocket. It's already there. So to get folks enabled, to get them created, and what a lot of people say is like avoiding one additional login, right, is massive amounts of friction that you've removed. So having somebody that's already in the platform is fantastic. The other thing that we find that's super valuable is you are already using it, like we said, through your 9 to 5. Many of your day jobs have Slack inside of your systems. And so you're using Slack, you're thinking about it all day, and to get to your community is a single click away. It's not a click to the browser, click to your email, search for the thing that you're looking for, find the thread, click on the thread, open it up, log in, get back in. I'm not making this up. This is actually when we did the study. That's how many clicks you have to go through to get to a separate platform. So to get to your Slack community was a single click away. And we realized if you can remove that friction, you can be as close as possible to your end member. You're going to create the best possible experience for them.
And cons.
Oh, the cons. Yes. I mean, Slack is ephemeral. It has no SEO. It has no kind of rigidity in its structure, right? So like as you start to use it, things disappear into the sunset. Uh, and that was a lot of the origination of Tightknit was actually to take your Slack and create a branded SEO enabled digital forum around the space. The big thing that Slack was missing in order to become a community platform. And then we took it a step further, right? We said, all right, let's add events, let's add gamification, let's add onboarding. And so once we've, kind of completed all of those tasks, that's when we could see the whole holistic platform fall into place. But really, without the kind of digital forum, the white label digital forum, the SEO side, that was where I think Slack was just always going to fall short as a business focused community tool.
You talk a lot about SEO. I'm curious what's going on right now when we have this agent optimization engine. So how do you deal with that?
Yeah, I mean, we've been at like the forefront for a lot of this, actually. What we've seen through the data is that, yeah, there's a lot of bots that are scanning your community content. And there's a reason why is there's a few reasons. Let's go like to the very beginning is suddenly when GPT-3 basically came out, anybody and their grandmother could write a blog about any topic in the world. So whether it was good content or not didn't quite matter. The fact that they could do it and that there was a massive growth in just the number of words that were on the internet. It created a real problem for a lot of these like SEO engines. So what they ended up doing is they said, actually, we're going to go, prioritize platforms like Reddit, Quora, Stack Overflow, these systems, or is like, okay, we're actually asking questions as a way a human would and answering questions as a way a human would. And while that was the major news, a lot of small forums also got a small boost from that as well. And so that was the first big one. The other thing that I've noticed is like a human behavior thing is the reason forums do better than than kind of your standard traditional blog is that when people go to ask questions in ChatGPT or any of your preferred AI tools, the way that they ask the question is nearly identical to the way that they would have posted the question in a community. And because of that, because it's not just your top keywords kind of searching for that SEO is primarily focused on, the keywords landscape, I think, has started to die. The semantic understanding of a question has grown, and that's what's been able to drive much more forum growth, is because of the way that those are operating.
It's so fun that you mentioned about how people actually ask questions because even now when I'm talking to LLM, it's not that I'm thinking of a prompt. I'm asking it if as I were asking a real human. And I always use the word please or can you please help me, something like that. So it's still very, very human related. So I'm curious, since we are already in this AI topic, how do you see AI helping or I don't know, maybe disrupting communities and what it brings? Is there a good thing for community or a bad thing for community?
I mean, I'm a optimist. I think if we cut down to it, I think this is going to be very good for digital communities. I won't speak to everything in the world that AI is good or bad for, but for a digital community, it should be good long run. And the reason being, and I should also say IRL communities too, but the way that I position it is, I do think there's a few communities that are not going to do well. I don't think anonymous communities is the future, to be honest. I think the ability for to create anonymous communities is going to struggle because the authenticity of is this a human or is this a bot will become harder to understand. So creating communities where you are yourself and you are open, you are not an AI, I think will grow. The One of the things that we like to say internally is we believe Tightknit's the last human-driven piece of software. Like we believe that look, AI is intending to try to eliminate customer support, eliminate sales, eliminate technology and the building of technology. And so if that is true, and we do span out far enough in time, we ask this question of what jobs do people have? And I think the connecting jobs, the understanding, the empathetic sides of business, which up until today has not quite had a moment to be quantified and to be considered as a valuable part. But what we're finding is performance-led marketing, performance sales, performance commerce, anything where it's focused on performance is actually struggling. Where it really things are winning is this human connective tissue where you're finding folks that would never have gotten the screen in front of their entire companies or people that are able to, especially salespeople that are able to so quickly help people not just understand but like learn the teaching salesperson. And so I think those are all community endeavors, and we're going to find that that's where we're going to all end up in business, is that if everything else gets eliminated, there's only really one bastion left for us to operate within, which hopefully is the community space.
Now, coming back a little bit to the anonymity that you were talking about, currently you can create chatbots that act like humans and basically add them to Slack. It's not that hard. What you need is an email and then to go through some process of kind of like approvals that you are not a bot. But okay, let's be honest, you can click it one time and then bot is playing. And also, I know people are creating their digital twins. So even if there is a real person behind, it still can be a bot. So I'm curious, is there a way to ensure that people who are joining Slack community are not bots?
Yeah, and it's tough. This is one of those I mean, here, you're, I'm going to pick on you for a second, but you right before this, you're like, I'm from Poland. I don't always say all of my words correctly, and I want to make sure that I'm a perfectionist, right? Like, you're not alone. There are billions of people, myself included, are the same way, right? I want to make sure that I'm getting things right, and so a lot of folks take, especially folks that speak a second language, take it and they put it through AI and they make sure that it's going to sound and feel like them. The issue, of course, is that then there's this element of, is this a real person speaking? Is it a bot? Is it who is behind door number three, right? Like you can't figure out if this is actually a person or not. And I think there is a balance to this. We don't have it yet. I don't have a clear, definitive, like black and white line for you of how we're going to dissolve, how we're going to figure this problem out and how it's going to work. We're going to always have this problem. It's going to always be a discussion. There's never going to be an answer. I think we're going to have to live in that community landscape for the next 20 plus years of having this discussion of, is this real or is it not? Because that's just the reality of it. That said, it's going to be um, it's going to be best when you do put yourself forward, right? Like when you do put your human self forward and you're not trying to entertain, if that makes sense. You're not trying to appeal to people's like perfectionism. And so my hope is that, yeah, there will always be some bots that sneak through, and our job will be to eliminate those. That will be the jobs of the future, ironically. There will be jobs that are entirely built around eliminating bots out of communities. And so I think that space is still very nascent, but making sure that we have a space still for humans that allow us to interact honestly and transparently around businesses, I think is going to be still, you know, fundamental.
I can also envision the job of making typos for people because we are so perfect that we are not making a single spelling mistake. And the fun thing that when I'm writing a message to someone and I'm making a mistake, I'm not specifically going and changing this mistake. I'm leaving it as it is because people still can read the word. But like, maybe it is human because they made a mistake. So it's kind of like, human bot understanding. And I recently had a conversation with a person on LinkedIn and they sent me a message and I was like, did you use AI to answer my question? And they're like, how do you know? I'm like, you use spaces between M dash.
Yeah.
Like, so it was so like, oh yeah, you're a pro of understanding like where AI and human. Yeah, that's how it is. And yeah, it's a very very fun and long conversation. I think that jumping into like whether AI is good or bad is like never ending, yeah, never ending conversation, and we can do it forever. And as you said, for someone it will be good, for someone it will be bad. It's never white or black. And coming back to community and business. So you already defined what a community for business is, and I'm curious, what is your definition of a community goal?
Ooh, a community goal. Well, I mean, I don't know if anyone's going to like this answer, but I don't know if you should have just a pure community goal. I think it should have to tie back to a larger business goal. It always. I think if you don't, if you can't, if I think, how do I put this? If you walk into the door and say, "Hey, our goal is creating some sort of belonging goal. We want people to belong. We want people to love this." It's hard to quantify. It's even harder to associate to the business goal. And so what ends up happening is even if somebody says yes, what eventually happens is, how is this driving revenue is always going to be the question at the end. And if you don't have a way to tie this back, if that community goal is just a pure community goal and it isn't actually tying back to the goals of the business, then you're going to struggle with it. You should be able to tie virtually everything back to the business. It's a matter of creativity. It's not a matter of just not having a goal that can associate back. The reason that belonging and creating those kind of goals does tie back to business goals is retention, it's loyalty, it's renewals, it's creating word of mouth growth, right? You should be able to have those that should all be at the ready. When you create a community goal, you can have your own goals internally of how you want to execute on a larger goal, which is retention, loyalty, growth, trust, having the space for people to give feedback, getting product feedback questions. Uh, those are real community business goals, and then you can go and execute in different ways of how you want to do that.
You know what I see a lot that people are building community and then they try to add some business goal on top. But I also understand that it might not always be a right way to do this. So it's better to understand the business goal and then to build it backwards, as you've said. I'm curious, how do a person do this? So for example, you know that your business goal is to bring 100 new customers daily. How do you do this with the help of community?
Yeah, I mean, you have to work your way backwards, right? I think it's you start to figure out what tools do I have within the community in order to achieve that set goal? What am I going to create within the space so that I can actually grow this thing as fast as possible? Um, it's it's not always easy and it's not always very clear if this will work, right? A lot of it's experimentation. You are working with the most difficult uh, end thing. You're working with humans, is how I kind of put it. You're herding cats. You're not able to just your goal. If your goal is to send 1,000 emails, you can send 1,000 emails. But if your goal is to get 1,000 emails returned, that's a lot harder, right? And so, um, the yeah, I mean, I can't give anybody like a clear answer because everyone's going to have different goals that they need to tie back to. But my most important pieces of advice is make sure you have an actual number that you want to go and hit. Whatever number you are trying to go for, make sure that it is feasible. I think a lot of people will put a number that they aspire to. Try to find a number that you believe you can actually hit, or at least get within the realm of hitting, right? If you hit the goal, you've done a fantastic job and you want to set a higher goal next time. But if you choose something far too high, you will struggle and you'll beat yourself up over why did it not transpire into being the goal that I needed it to be?
It's still a little bit of a crazy that let's imagine you are a sales expert or a marketing expert. You don't really have to win anyone on the in the company because they understand what sales means, they understand what marketing means. But when you are a community expert, you have to win all the teams because usually no matter what goal you have, it's very, very rarely that you can reach it by yourself. And I'm curious, how do you win those teams? How do you invite those teams to work with you to get to reach this goal?
Yeah, I mean, first off, the most important thing is making sure that that team knows who you are. I think it's so shocking, actually, how often that is the first step where a community manager has done such an incredible job with their external community, and they have done such a terrible job with the internal community. And there are two communities. Like I tell people this all the time, is a company is a community where you're paid to be there. Like think of it like that. And if you can go and activate your employees to join and be active and participate in the community, you're going to have a much easier time explaining to people what you do. So that's almost always my goal number one for folks when they are trying to start a community is get your employees activated. The other important things are one, you have to know what those people's goals are. A lot of folks can't they can't iterate what those individuals are working on. You don't know how to help them until you know their goals. Write those goals down. Understand that whenever you go to speak to them, you know what they're trying to achieve. And the reason that's important is what you can do is take the analytics that are happening within the community, and every time you go back to speak to them, show them how things are actually operating. So, I mean, here's a good example, Yuri, like we're right now we have our Salesforce integration that we've done a really impressive amount of work on to get community activity data from your Slack community into Salesforce so that you
Mm.
can actually create reports to show that, say, one of the most important ones is NRR, which is net retention of revenue. So making sure that you are For every customer that you have, that customer is either, buying again or actually growing within the business. Building a report to show that to the customer success team, fantastic. Or being able to show that if you have a community that isn't just customers and maybe it has prospects in there, that a customer or a prospect who joins the community is 2 to 3x more likely to buy the product, go show that to head of sales. If you've got any sort of reports where you've got like folks are saying, hey, marketing is hard. Marketing and attribution is always one of the hardest ones because word of mouth is impossible to track. But if you are able to show any sort of anecdotal stuff of like the work that you did to help support the marketing team, that's when you're able to kind of build your own presence within the business.
Is there something that you built on top to show this report, or is it mostly like that just connecting existing data with the community data, meaning that you can separate members who are, I mean, like community members from all the customers? Or is it something that you build on top? Maybe there are some formulas. I don't know, like guide me through how these reports work.
This is kind of funny to say this. So we have an analytics tool. We also have a connection to Salesforce. Our analytics tool is to make you feel good.
Hmm.
I don't mean this in a bad way. This is this is to make you feel good and understand what's going on in the business, but it is not for the rest of the business. If you cannot get your community data back into where the rest of the business is operating, it is going to be very difficult to translate success back into the business. And so, while we've done a lot of work in our analytics to make sure that people understand how to do their jobs better, the most important part is getting your data into the business's data. So whether that data is into Salesforce, whether that data is into HubSpot, Snowflake, there are a bunch of different spaces. If you can get that data in there and associate some reporting, and this is reporting for community managers, that is hard, right? You have to be able to speak a little bit of the analytical language. You have to be able to say, all right, because I ran this program, we ran a 10 event program across these 10 countries, what did it look like? What were the outcomes of said countries? Did it make a difference? Was there an impact to sales? Was there an impact to revenue retention? And so those are the things that was kind of tying back to our previous conversation. While you should have a goals of your community, it really needs to be tied back to the business goals. And the same goes with the data. You can have your community data, but it has to be tied back to the business data.
Who does community manager has to be connected with to bring the data to stakeholders, to win stakeholders?
Yeah, it depends on the size of the organization. So I'd say a lot of folks have either what's called like a marketing ops team or a go-to-market ops or someone who's on rev ops. That is probably one of the best people to also be friends with. That person's goal is to make sure that essentially all of this data, all of the revenue teams are kind of operating successfully and driving as much revenue. They are, you know, creating productivity across different revenue teams. And your job is to say, hey, how do I get the community and the goals that I'm doing within this community in front of as many of what you would say is like a CSM. So, someone who's working on account management, helping solve problems with customers on a regular basis. How do I get that community work that I'm doing in front of those individuals? Today, a lot of that is manual. It's reaching out and saying, hey, did you know that your customer is asking about this product? And it kind of triggers a light and people go and start selling. But that anecdotal data is also super valuable. Save screenshots of all of these things because this is the kind of work that you can show and say, hey, quantitative, we're trying to drive and figure out these metrics. But qualitatively, I have real examples of when we found out that a customer had high intent to buy something new or high intent to churn, and we were able to save said deal or grow said deal because of the moment in that community. So I'm rambling a bit here, but I would say the important part is make sure that you're taking notes about all the things that you're doing, and if you can get this productized into your CRM, take advantage of that. Go do it as soon as possible.
And also, as you've said, you have external and internal communities. So you have to not just talk to customers, but also go to your other teams and build a community with them so that you can easily share, and go and send these messages. Because I feel like some people are kind of like shying away or don't want to add maybe like brag about what's happening in the community or don't want to add extra work to other team members. But I feel like sometimes they're missing out on this very, very important data that you can get only from community. And I feel like when you are creating, when you making this collaboration happen, that's exactly where the beauty of it, and then everyone's happy. But once again, it's a fairy tale world. It's like reality is a little bit different. And I feel like that you already helping a lot community builders with Tightknit while showing, as you've said, data to make you feel good. Because if you feel good, you are empowered, you are motivated to go and move forward with the data that you upload to Salesforce, that you connect with other analytical data, and that data can go higher to stakeholders. And I feel like that step by step by step, that's how you win all other hearts, and that's exactly how you make all other people in your company, once again, depending on the size of the company, to kind of like love your community. And to the point of tools. So we have Slack, we have Tightknit that helps make Slack better. What other tools that you use that complement Slack and Tightknit? What are the best tools that you use for what specific tasks and why?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question. I mean, I can speak to kind of let me speak to my tool set. Maybe that's the way to speak
Yeah,
to it.
of course.
I think there's a few that I really enjoy is, Granola is one of my favorite recent tools, right? So like when I'm having a community conversation, I use Granola to help save that information. I can go back and ask questions of like, hey, where is Yurii from, right? And like having the ability to go back and get that personal information because as you start to meet thousands of members and many times you do meet these individuals at some point over a phone or even in person, just like having the data to be able to come back to and ask the personal questions around that, really useful. The other stuff that I would say I mean, I'm a big Canva user. We love our badges. We love gamifying like all of the different experiences that you can go through within the community and giving out the right, profile frames. And so we use Canva a lot to be able to create those experiences. Um, I think let's see, we've really, it's fun, like the CRM space. We've tried to stay pretty like we're aware that yes, Salesforce is the leader, HubSpot's the close number two, it but I do think that there are smaller, lighter weight CRMs. And I think I even tell people when they first start, like I don't use it myself, but I'm a big believer in like an Airtable. Just get something. You have to think of a system that you can use to track where there's external like third party custom fields and stuff like that. We also use ADIO internally. I think having those kind of tools and thinking like a business for your community is really useful. A lot of your companies will already have one that you can use to tie into that one. Don't start a new one. But if you're a solo entrepreneur, make sure you have some sort of CRM for your community to be able to track this kind of stuff.
You told about gamifications that you love badges and all the things around it. And I feel like there are very, very different thoughts in different community experts. So I'm curious, how do you think gamification helps to drive engagement or maybe grow community? Like what's good in gamification for community?
Yeah, I mean, I love brand building, frankly. I think there's an element to having someone w earn a badge that even if they don't use it or enjoy it, they're looking at it and they're going, "This is a badge that I earned through this community, and it's mine. It's mine, mine. You can't take it. It's my badge, Yuri, my badge." And so, I think that is like there's certain elements of loyalty building and joy that you can really use like gamification to go around. I'm not a big believer in leaderboards, so yeah, we could get into that debate. I think leaderboards can gamify and incentivize to have winners, if that makes sense. You don't, I don't know why businesses want winners, frankly. I don't understand that
Everyone
concept.
wants winners, This is a society. You have to
I
win something.
I get it, but the problem is, what are you winning, right? Like,
Yeah.
what is engagement? What is winning engagement going to do for your business? My opinion is it usually ends up pushing down folks that didn't have the time to win, if that makes sense. Some of your most valuable community members are not the ones with a lot of time on their hands. The ones who have a lot of time on their hands are going to be the winners. Those tend to be not the ones that have the most budget. They tend to be the ones that, are going to sometimes just win for the sake of winning. That said, of course, there are some of those that are so proud of being the one that answered the most questions and doing that. But I think the leaderboard element is where I struggle with. I do believe in tiers. I do believe you can be a level 53 mage. I'm just making, I think that's the kind of like, why not give people this element of it's your own path and you can create and grow in your own way, but it doesn't need to be a comparison of this person's number one, this person's number two.
Yeah, you reminded me of a Duolingo because I remember they always have this gamification, and when you are doing a lot of lessons, you can go like first, second, third, etc. And then there are different leagues, and you can go up and down in the leagues. And some time ago, I was like really a fan of it because I was trying to be somewhere on top to promote to another league, etc. And now I don't really care. It's kind of like still not very nice when I'm falling out of league. It's a little bit of a nice sensation when I'm coming up, but I don't really care. I'm there to learn, at least hope that I learn some new language to expand just a little bit my vocabulary. And I don't need this gamification. It's a distraction. It doesn't mean anything. And by the way, to the Bage's point, like it has to mean something.
Yeah.
Because if you just otherwise it's just a picture and everyone can give a picture. It's all the meaning behind this picture, like how many hours you've spent or how many people you helped, or I don't know, like what you agreed on within communities that badge means. And I think that that's the hardest part to, add the meaning behind the bench. So I'm curious, when you are creating a gamification or like this badge system, how do you assign a meaning to a badge?
Yeah, I mean, we do two types of badges. I would say there's the ones that are kind of in perpetuity. They never really go away, right? Like there's doing certain activities within the community, especially onboarding, where it's like if you do these two or three things, you've now completed the like you basically have activated within the community in some sense. You've at least made your first post. That's so hard to get community members to do. And if you can get them to do that, that is a big win for a community manager. Um, the other ones we love to do are, built around recognition and the holidays and just showing people that we are listening to them. I think that's, here's a good example that right now it's almost Valentine's Day as we're recording this. We're going to then post a thing and make sure that it's going to be a Valentine's Day recognition because why not, right? Create a space for folks to if they do want to be closer and connected to your brand and they value it, there are many folks that do want those kind of things. They want to participate in some sort of small activity. And it creates that little bit of loyalty and engagement that you are looking for as a brand. And yeah, it's fun. It's just a little fun, and fun is sometimes good for business.
Yeah, we all need a little bit of more fun in our lives. And Zach, I wish to have the sky as a limit, but time is a limit to our conversation. So the final question, what is one thing to do right away for someone struggling with identifying their community ROI?
Yeah, I always point back to servant leadership for this. I think the most important thing is you want to go meet with a bunch of your community members to find out why they get value in the community. You can make up a thing and say, "Oh, here's why customers get value in our community." But if it's not true, you're going to find that the numbers are not going to match what you're stating. And so, while we did spend most of the discussion, right, thinking about, okay, the business goals and how it's going to work. At the end, these are people, and you need to go speak to each of them and find out why they care about the community. And if you can get them to tell you about, like, what do they come back for? What are they looking for? How can you help them? And help them is not just support them with the product, it's sometimes support them through their careers, sometimes support them with learning more about your product, right? Or meeting certain folks within the company so that they can get more access and provide more value. That's the kind of work where if you can get that information at that level, it's going to give you a way better ability to create the metrics that we talked about before because you're going, every time you build one of those metrics, you're going to think about the three people that
Mm.
you are going to check on when you're trying to achieve those metrics. And if they are not going right, you should reach out to those three people and say, hey, what am I not doing that you think that I could do to help make this viable? And that's going to be the best way to fall back on the community to drive the right goals.
And it's also the hardest part because it's not quantity, but quality. Because you have to actually go and talk to these people. It's unskippable part. You just can't send them one survey and hope that they will answer and tell, like open their hearts to you. You have to really dive into this conversation. I think that's something that most businesses are trying to speed up, and sometimes you can speed up human relationships. Sorry, not sorry. And last but not least, name two people I should reach out to talk about community ROI.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to break you out into some new folks. I was thinking about this. I want to call out. Have you met Taylor Harrington yet, already, Yuri? Okay,
Yeah,
good.
Taylor is amazing.
Uh, have you met David Nabinski yet? Who I'm co-hosting our conference with.
No, not yet.
Okay, great. So David, I would love to put on the roadmap for you. And then let's say a third, let's call out some of the rising stars. So I'm going to call out Derek Collins, who just started as the community manager at Realit. He's entered our world real quick here in New York, and I think he's a really sharp mind and probably one of those new community leaders in the space.
And I feel like it's a person who already started as a community leader, because like a long time ago, they were never like, how did you decide to become a community builder? I was just in sales, or I was in marketing, or I was somewhere else, and then I become a community manager. And what is the best way to connect with you?
Yeah, I mean, best way, especially if you're, on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is going to be the best, but also we have an open community. So if you want to join our community full of almost 1,000 of your top Slack community leaders, you can find us at community.tightknit.ai. But if you search Tightknit on Google, you should see us. And then if you're in New York City, we're hosting a bunch of events. So hopefully folks can kind of find us. We're on Luma, we're on our own Tightknit calendar. And so we'd love to be able to have you at a future community event.
Yeah, Zach, thank you so much, first of all, for what you are doing, because you are really, really helping people who love Slack. You are helping them to advocate for the tools they love, and you are also helping them to help other people to connect. Because if you are living Slack, yeah, you have to deal with a lot of things. So you are really, really propelling the industry forward. So thank you very much for that. And of course, for sharing your experience so open and for having this fun conversation with me. I always happy to reconnect with you, to get a little bit of your brains, pick your brains, as they say, to get a little bit of that and share with other folks. So thank you so, so much for this conversation.
Thank you, Yuri. Yeah, I appreciate it. I'm glad you're doing this. It's really elevating the community world.
Thank you. And yeah, see you in the community world. And thank you so much for listening. If you have any questions about how the community can help you reach and overcome your business goals faster, let's connect on LinkedIn and talk about it. That's it. We're done. See you in the next episode.